In the first of a new series where I get behind the scenes and talk to owners of Land Rovers and 4x4s, say hello to Wolf the 110, owned by Jack down here in Devon. I have to say it's one of the most beautiful Defender 110s I've come across. An amazing blend of those classic Defender looks with some great modifications for overland and off-road travel. Anyway guys, enjoy. Hey there Jack.
Hello Dan.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. Just thought I'd get out my Tour Overland custom bottle. Need some water, so.
No, good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, today Jack's going to show us around his very, very beautiful 110 Defender, which is down our way in Devon.
Yeah.
And Jack, how long have you had it?
I've had it about 5 and a bit years. So it was originally a white pickup. As you can see, it isn't anymore.
Yeah.
Over the last 5 years, it's been a sort of labour of love. Rebuilding it, it was really neglected when I bought it, so mechanically.
So I'm interested, what's going on with the rear glass panels here? Because these don't look...
No. So those. So basically, it was a van when I got it, so no windows, no visibility, which I didn't like as much. So basically, these are from a Series 3 from the 80s, and I got them in Cornwall. Picked them up for a bit of a bargain price, did it in the car park near my house, jacked the roof up and slotted them in with my dad of an evening. But it's sort of transformed it. Visibility, I've done sort of the Alps in it and just being able to see hairpins and corners and just junctions and just brings a whole different sort of feel to a otherwise quite sort of dark space. Yeah.
Well, no, totally. It's like a little greenhouse, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of the nice things in sort of these older Land Rovers and old cars in general.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. If we move around, so back sort of, it is a lot of DIY stuff. It's taking inspiration from a lot of overland mods, but doing it my own way. So got the classic table here, all of the brands represented, a lot of the parts in the car and a lot of people I've met. I like to just sort of have a story on the back door table.
So how does that one open?
So it's all marine grade stuff from a boat store. So you've got a quick release latch and it literally just drops down. This is all rigging from sailing equipment. So super strong, doesn't rust. It's all stainless. It's a simple system.
And I guess that's just custom made.
Yeah, so that's actually the door card that came with the car. So that's probably 20 years old. And I've just repurposed it and put a new door card on and just, bought my own hardware. It's sort of, my dad was a lot of inspiration. He's got exactly the same table. So we built them together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, cool. And then what's in here? Looks like this is a bit of a custom setup.
So I'll just fold that away a second, like that. So in the back, really sort of simple setup. It's basically a single bed with storage underneath there. So that's quick release stuff. So that's cooking stuff, jet boil, mugs, coffee, tea. And then underneath here, you've got just again, super simple plastic storage box that you can pull out. It's on little wheels. It's got everything I need.
Okay, so little wheels. Let's have a look. So is that just...
Yeah, literally on the bottom.
I see, yeah.
Yeah.
No, sweet.
And it just rolls in and out. Space is a bit of a premium on Land Rovers. They don't have much. They look quite big. So just getting stuff that fits. I've got these new camping chairs from Quetcher. Just super compact telescopic chairs that fit right next to it. I've got 2 of those. It's just sort of trying to save space where you can. This is a new addition. So in case I ever want to sleep 2 in here, this bed platform is collapsible and it can slot under there, and then you can put that to there as a sofa. So it can sleep 1 or 2, or it can be a sort of living room setup. And I sort of recently put some insulation and headlining in, which that was all done myself. It's just sort of 1-inch foam, adhesive glue and some stretch carpet. But the difference when it's cold, when you're camping, is just massive, no condensation.
Okay, so how did you get it stretched over? Did you just heat it up?
It's got the fabric itself is stretched. Doing it in one piece is a challenge because you're sort of lying on your back, working this way, doing spray glue. Getting sort of covered in glue and fumes and stuff. But it's just made it transform the actual cab in terms of noise, and just insulation and condensation. It's just been a game changer. So I should have done it years ago, but
Nice, yeah.
I've been chasing mechanical things as you do with these over the years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I can already notice some very new looking sort of chassis and steel here.
Yeah, so quite a lot of quite a lot was done about a year ago now. So it's a Mayer galvanized chassis. Did it with Rob Hurrell, Evolutionary 4x4, really good friend who I've known since I was about that tall. Basically did the entire thing in one go: brakes, suspension, drivetrain, all the components that bolt to a chassis. I sort of just did the whole thing to save time in the future. But we did it in 3 days, me and him, smashed it out, and it was an amazing experience, and I learnt a lot, and it's now future proof, and it's the sort of car I'm going to keep forever. So I wanted to do it all properly. It's got some Alley Sport stainless steel exhaust as well, which is a great one. That's a lifetime guarantee on that, and Dan's already told me he thinks it sounds pretty good.
I can testify to that. Giving it some beans on the way here. It sounded awesome.
Yeah.
Really
but and then I've got the Pioneer brake lines as well, which are stainless steel braided. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to see down there, but stainless steel braided brake lines. And then I've got Old Man Emu shocks and IBAC rear springs. So it's it rides really well. It's supple enough, and it stops reasonably well for a Land Rover now. But I didn't want to sort of go overkill. It's an overland vehicle. I wasn't sort of building it to tear off-road and sort of that side of things. It was built to sort of be reliable and keep it as close to factory in terms of mods as I could.
So what are you running in terms of those wheels and tyres and things?
So these are the BF Goodrich KO2. So it's a 235/85/16 all-terrain tyre. I've used BF Goodrich for years. My dad has used them for about 30 years or so on his car, so I knew they were sort of tried and tested, growing up with them. I went for standard size out the factory. Land Rover designed it for a reason. They did it right. The gearing's correct. They're not overly aggressive. You get 50 to 60,000 miles out of a set, which is pretty amazing for an all-terrain.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
And you can air them down, so they're tubeless with the Wolf heavy-duty rim. So you've got a much thicker steel. Unlike alloy, they're not going to crack. So you can hammer them to kingdom come. If you have an issue out in the bush or wherever you are, they're pretty robust.
And out of interest, how long have you had your steel wheels? Because those look in really tidy condition.
Yeah, I've had a few sets. So these are my first Wolf rim. I think, it is a bit of a difficult one because steels you do have to paint and maintain. But that is it's the pros and cons with steel and alloy. Alloy, it's not going to rust. Steel will rust, but I think for overlanding, as I sort of mentioned, the robustness of a steel wheel it's worth it to me for a sort of bit of hammerite every few years. But yeah. No,
that's good. And what about this little hatch here? Are you using that in any way?
So these they're fitted by the Waterboard originally. So the car was, like I said, a white pickup truck. So it was used. The bed was filled with tools, I'm guessing, before I owned it. And these are just side lockers. So I use them that's water. A bit of antifreeze, bit of petrol for my Coleman stove inside.
Yeah.
Nice cleaning rag there.
Excellent, yeah.
Just to avoid some old boxes. But yeah, they're super useful. Anything dirty that you don't want in the cab, so anything fumy or wet, I keep it all in the lockers. So I've got 10 litres of water this side, 20 the other side. It's 30 litres of water and 5 litres of petrol. So yeah, it sort of keeps me going for a fair period when I'm travelling. By myself predominantly. So,
yeah, excellent. And then sort of working down the front here, I can see, if I'm looking under, this looks aftermarket.
So yeah, it's all polybush, so Super Pro polybushed all round on all the joints. That is a caster corrected radius arm, so it basically brings the geometry back with the small suspension lift it's got. So your prop angle will be correct. So that's just correcting all the geometry to mean it rides properly, it handles properly. And yeah, I found it quite a good addition.
And what got you to go for that? Was that sort of just trial and error or recommendation?
It was a recommendation. It sort of brings it back to how it should be because it's got a small lift. it brings sort of all the geometry, like I said, back to how it should be. But that's a recent thing I've done. My axle casing on the front had a slight bend in it, unbeknownst to me. So
Okay.
I replaced all the bushes, new radius arms, because that also had a bend in it. That's before my ownership. So yeah, I've sort of done an overhaul of the front axle, and that was all involved. So, but yeah.
Yeah, you can see this is looking nice and standard.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
it's sort of, it's pretty standard now. Wheels and tyres are standard. I've actually brought the ride height a bit more back to standard recently, and it just seems to be riding as it should be. Like I said, I think Land Rover sort of got it right generally. Yeah, we can have a little look at engine if you want to have a,
Go for
have
it.
a quick look. Just pop it.
Yeah, because we've not actually talked about what's under there.
Yeah, it's nothing too crazy. You can do a lot with these cars, but I've kept it fairly close to standard. So yeah, it's one of the last 300 TDIs. So it's a 1998 car, S-Reg. This is a replacement engine from a 1996 car on lower mileage. It's on about 130,000 and the car is on about 265,000.
Nice.
So I put a lower mileage, just a like-for-like TDI back in.
So Alfred, why did you replace the engine?
So I replaced it. I had a fuel pump, so the mechanical fuel pump just here, which failed. So it's fairly common. A seal internally failed on the fuel pump, and it was 600 quid for a pump. And I got this entire engine with a fuel pump for 450 quid from a farmer. So
Fair enough.
basically they're fairly easy to come by, and it was such high mileage and starting to clatter. I thought I'll just bite the bullet and do an engine swap, and it's now done sort of 30,000 miles. It's done the Alps, it's done the Pyrenees, it's done Italy, and the engine's not missed a beat. Nothing's
awesome.
gone wrong pretty much with this one, which is super cool. It's just such a simple engine. I basically learned mechanicking on this car, but it's the easiest car to do it because you can see everything, you can access everything. It's pretty self-explanatory.
No, it is. I mean, looking down here,
you can tell what
access
everything
is great.
is.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm used to vehicles where you need little tiny child hands just to reach even the most simple things.
Yeah. So basically from stock, apart from a couple of things, so it's got a aluminium intercooler, so the air into the turbo is slightly cooler than it would be from factory. It's slightly more efficient. So I didn't go for a full width just to avoid blocking the airflow to the radiator. So the TDIs have a radiator and an intercooler, and that just means it's working again as it should be from factory, really. And then in the engine bay, so like I talked about the fuel pump, these are Bosch mechanical pumps, super simple. You adjust it with a screwdriver basically to get more or less fuel. That's turned up slightly, and the boost pin has just been turned slightly clockwise to get a bit more fuel. And then over this side, the only other mod I have is a boost controller, which is that one there. It is literally a nut that you wind in or out for more or less turbo boost. You just adjust it as you go. I've got a manual boost gauge on the dash, which means I'm not gonna overdo it, which I think is easy to do. So yeah, those are the only mods: the intercooler, the boost, and the fueling, which I've done to the engine. Other than that,
And how do you find things like MPG in this?
it's not as bad as people think. I think I've drive a lot of vans with work, and this is pretty much on par with a Transit. It does about 26, 27 MPG, which again, if you drive a van, you'll be used to that. It's not catastrophic at all. It's a 4-cylinder, low horsepower, turbocharged diesel, so it sort of just chugs along, and it's not.
Well, when you think you're carrying, what we've got on the top, which we'll have a look in a moment.
Yeah.
You've got that, because just thinking back on some trips I've done in an old 90 with the TDI, then we were getting early 30s in that, but we didn't have the roof rack or rooftop tent.
Yeah, that's it. I think for the mods it's pretty reasonable. It does okay. You can, if you cane it more, it does worse, just like any car. But the new roof tent is a lot slimmer line than the soft shells, and I think that has helped a bit with economy to a certain point. It is a brick at the end of the day, but yeah.
And how about here? So we've got a raised air intake.
Yeah, so That's it's just a sort of safari snorkel sort of
Yeah.
copy. It's a one-piece pipe into the airbox, which we saw under the bonnet. So
Nice.
it just gives you peace of mind if you do any sort of water that it's semi-sealed. And obviously the main use for these is dusty environments, just bringing in as cleaner air as possible, a bit higher up. So yeah.
Yeah,
it's
excellent.
been
Well,
quite
if
a
you
good
show
mod.
me in the cabin, actually, I'll come around the other side.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Could be slightly underwhelming. Oh, haven't cleaned it either. Just move that out of the
No,
way.
well, we want to see it all natural.
Yeah, so again, pretty factory, factory wheel, factory dash, factory lovely British Leyland plastic,
Excellent.
all over the place. I sort of kept it that way for a reason. I didn't want to go messing with it or drilling holes in it or sort of do much irreversible stuff with it, because I just like it for what it is, and I've grown up in this cab and it's familiar. Little things, fire extinguisher, got that quickly to hand, only a recent thing because my dad's had a few engine bay fires, and it's something I now have got a sort of some form of relationship with, so I put that there. So it's, again, the back's where I've done most of the work, and my mum made these lovely curtains on her sewing machine, so it's just
nice.
there's a piece of paracord, some blackout curtain, and I slide it along the paracord every night, and it's pitch black, so it's quite a sort of nice DIY easy mod. Quite a cool sort of story on this sticker. That one was again from my friend Rob Hurrell. So that is a genuine Camel Trophy sticker from one of the 1989 winners, the UK winners that he got given, Bob and Joe Ives, who won that event. So I've got a pretty cool to have a genuine camel, which I've followed since I was 2 or 3 and just obsessed over it. So I'm just harking to that inside. Dan again is a big fan of the camel. He's got one of those stickers on his car.
Oh no,
so,
I've grown up. Might show my age, but I was around when that one actually took place.
Oh, awesome.
Not that I remember it, but always loved Camel Trophy.
My childhood was just videotapes in the living room with my dad, just obsessing, and Darien Gap and all these amazing adventures, and just obviously, I sort of haven't talked about it much yet, but sort of my past is every single school holiday, 6 weeks, was in my dad's 1989 station wagon 110. So we've done 25 plus countries in that as a family. So
okay, so we could say it's a case of Stockholm syndrome there.
A little bit. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll shut here. So going up on the roof.
Yes.
So what roof rack have you opted with?
So I've gone for, it's a Brown Church roof rack. So it's a commercial one, harking back to the commercial past of the car. So it's galvanized steel, it's heavy duty, it's extremely reinforced, maybe slightly heavy, but you can load them up. They are Brown Church, sort of the most sort of tried and tested roof rack for a Land Rover for the past 30, 40 years. My dad's had his on his car for about 25 years and never had a single problem, and loaded it up to drive to Iceland with 6 vehicles when I was 5. We overlaid them. We had about 9-10 people in the cars, and never had a problem. So I sort of went for a similar rack. It's actually from my brother-in-law and sister's car. They kindly let me.
Well, they've got quite an interesting little story at the moment.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So I was actually on FaceTime to them recently. They are doing the Pan American Highway. They're Yak Overland on Instagram and YouTube. Definitely check them out. They're doing a year-long trip, so South to North America. They're currently in sort of Central America, Guatemala area. And yeah, they are living out of one of these cars, and it's a great story. Yeah.
Well, no, I was watching some of the more recent ones, and it looks like Ellie's Spanish is pretty decent.
Yeah, it's a lot better than mine. I have none. So, and yeah, fortunately for David, his Spanish, he won't mind me saying, is fairly poor. So, yeah.
No, good stuff.
But yeah,
going around, I know. Here, this side on, this is a fairly new edition, isn't it?
Yeah, so guys at Brookwells had these in one of their catalogues, and I sort of looked around Justin's on his Ford Ranger and sort of wanted to make sure I was getting the right one. But yeah, I've had it about a month. Tested it in some wind and a little bit of rain as well. It's a great addition. I wanted it to be a wraparound to sort of just keep simplicity. Instead of a rear and a side, I wanted it to be one unit. Yeah, it's being able to cook on my back door table under cover. In a hot country, you're always hunting for shade. So I think having the option, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Awning's a super popular mod, but this one Terra Firma Pterodactyl is the model. Super reasonably priced, and we found, and the guys at Brickwells have found that they are freestanding in low wind, and if you've got any sort of breeze, you just whack one of these quick release poles down and it supports it no problem. Have yet to get the wraparound room that goes with it, which means you could sleep,
Okay, yeah.
7-8
That's a
people
big
if you wanted
space,
to,
yeah.
but it's a great space, and yeah, having shelter is a bit of a must for an overland car. So yeah,
No, excellent.
yeah,
And then I'll work round,
yeah,
and we'll see right on the top your rooftop tent.
yes,
So this looks to be a hard shell.
yeah. So it's Ventura Roof Tents is the company. There are lots of similar tents. It's an aluminium roof tent, aluminium skinned with headliner, insulation, built-in mattress. It's got a rubber seal that means it keeps it pretty watertight through the elements, and it just opens on the gas struts here. So you just release your catches. Takes about 30 seconds and it pops up. So it's a super easy way to set up camp, really. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And that looks to be, is it a 2-person?
Yeah, 2-person, 2 people and maybe a kid if you wanted. But in wind, the big thing I found going from soft shell to hard shell is in wind, the tent just seems to be way more solid, and you don't get as much flapping that keeps you up all night, which a lot of you guys will probably relate to. But
Well, I think we find with our hard top, then you can sort of direct it into the wind. Just to give a little bit of protection, which is really handy.
Yeah. No, I'm super happy with it, and it's being able to leave your bedding up there as well is really nice. Yeah. Really nice feature to have. And it can take about 40 kilos or so on the roof bars, so you could have a couple of boards or a kayak up there.
That's really good, yeah.
You can still sleep in there and it will still lift them to a certain degree. So it's quite a nice sort of option for me. Quite a sort of, we live by the sea, so always moving stuff around and
And have you got any other things on your sort of to do in terms of, let's say, mods? So not mechanical. No, I think always chasing.
I've got this gap in the back at the moment, which I've got my sort of little cabinetry here, which I can sort of cook on. And then I've got the sliding window just here, which again, that's another non-factory thing. It's made by Overland Products, a UK-based company.
Yep.
It means I can then cook inside fairly safely with a jet ball and it still gets some ventilation.
Nice.
Sleeping, I can put my net over and still get a bit of a breeze if it's hot. Going back to future things, this space currently is holding my Coleman dual burner, best stove in the world.
So let's have a look. Because nice and old school as well. Yeah.
So that one it's unleaded. People are a bit scared of that. Tried and true. We've used one my entire life, 26, 25 years. My dad's had one and recommended it, and you can get petrol anywhere. There's no shortage because you don't need to hunt for propane. It's got 2 burners and it just works. They work just relentlessly and has fed our family of 5 for 20 years of holidays and never missed a beat. So it's something I'll always hang on to, and all my cooking happens here.
Yeah.
But that space currently with the Coleman, I'm thinking of putting a fridge, just a small, probably 40-litre fridge with a super simple split charge system. So you can fit two batteries underneath the passenger seat, a deep cycle leisure battery, and then my starter. So I'm going to have I think a small fridge is my sort of last overlandy mod. I'm pretty happy.
So what have you been doing up till now when you go on your trips?
Most of we eat a lot of dried food. I've sort of lived off noodles and pasta for a lot of holidays, but I've got a small cool box which I occasionally use. But I think when you go past somewhere, buying fresh each day is fairly easy. In Europe, it's easy. I think if you go outside Europe, it gets a bit harder. We've done Morocco. That I could not want a fridge more than when we were in Morocco. It's 52 degrees. Sahara Desert, out in the middle of nowhere, no fridge with 5 people and a family in a Land Rover from the 80s I can appreciate that. Yeah, you want a cold drink, I can say that for free. But I think it's something I'll need in the future, but with sort of my trips at the moment and sort of more Europe based, I've not needed one, but that's a definite in the future when I do my own big trip, which will hopefully happen in the next sort of couple of years or so. Yeah.
No, excellent. Well, no, Jack, thanks so much for showing us around.
No problem.
And I've got to say, this is one of my favourite 110s out there.
Thank you very much.
Sort of just a really lovely blend of classic proper Defender in my eyes, with just that functionality, just to lift it up and, you know, so you can
Yeah.
actually go out and use it.
I think you can spend a lot on these cars, and I think you can buy a lot of stuff you don't actually need. Definitely, I'll always say, keep it as close to stock if you can, and try and just DIY it, because most of the time you will know what you want after doing a few test trips, and you can often make them. You know, table's a great example, but fitting the things you need, not that you necessarily sort of want, and just do those test trips and just, yeah, go out
And
and
also,
enjoy
I just
it.
leave you.
Yeah.
I love this battle scar here.
Yeah.
I love that. I really hope you don't get rid of that.
No,
because for me, that
people are
tells
quite
the
fond
story.
of it. It was actually quite a terrible experience. It was pretty straight, this car. I went over a tree stump about that big. It kicked up and pushed this panel all the way into the tub. So that was
Jeez, yeah.
that was coved in all the way. So I spent an evening with my head in that in the
like-
tub there, just hammering it out. I sort of re-riveted it and got it
Jobs are good, aren't they?
slightly better, but it
Yeah.
is. I really am not precious about the paintwork. It's not perfect, but having it mechanically sound with sort of battle scars, that's how I like my Land Rover, really. Yeah.
Excellent. And with that, no, cheers, Jack.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, Dan.
All right. Thanks again to Jack and his Defender Wolf, the 110. If you enjoyed this video, then stay tuned for the next one. Cheers, guys.